The cave, the beast, and us. Why we fear what doesn't listen. Most bedtime stories fade with the morning light. You remember snippets, maybe a feeling. But my grandma told one, just one, that stuck. And not because it was heartwarming or funny. It stuck because it utterly terrified me. It wasn't your standard horror fare with jump scares or obvious ghouls. The truly chilling part, the bit that made my blood run cold even as a kid, was who the evil was in her story. It was not the conventional monster under the bed or ghosts in a haunted house. The horror in this story wore a familiar face. The evil wasn't some outside force. It was human-like. Someone you could know and talk to. Someone seemingly innocent. And that single chilling detail, that insidious twist, that idea of darkness hiding behind an everyday face, that's what ran ice down my back. And honestly, I've never shaken it off. Just imagine, you're in a room and there's someone or something in there with you. It doesn't talk. It doesn't negotiate. It just is. It stares at you, and you know it's going to hurt you. And the worst part? There's no way out. That's not just a nightmare. That's one of the oldest fears humanity has ever carried. And it's a recurring scene in cinema and literature. The evil cannot be reasoned with. It acts on instinct or cold logic. Violence simmers beneath its surface, and it sees us not as fellow minds, but as obstacles, prey, or problems to eliminate. Why does this scenario terrify us so deeply? From ancient myths to modern sci-fi, this fear runs like a current through the human psyche. It touches on something primal, something older than language, buried in the oldest folds of our storytelling and our evolution. I'm Kayhan, and in this episode of Noise, we're going to trace it, from ancient caves and one-eyed giants to the cold silence of space, and deep into the forests of Japan, where an old woman waits, smiling just a little too wide. Chapter 1. The First Cave. We begin in ancient Greece, the Odyssey, the island of the Cyclops. Odysseus and his men find shelter in a cave, a massive dark cavern stocked with cheese and livestock. Hospitality, perhaps? No. The cave belongs to Polyphemus, a one-eyed shepherd, a creature that wears the shape of a person, a face that almost looks human. Almost. He walks like a man, but doesn't reason like human, and mercy is not his strong suit. He eats the men one by one, and every night the mouth of the cave remains sealed with a stone no mortal can move. They're not just trapped with a monster. They're trapped with a being who doesn't listen. This is the stereotype. The enclosed space, the unreasoning intelligence, the human who must use wit, not strength, to survive. Odysseus lies and later blinds the beast, and he finally escapes tied to the underbellies of sheep. The monster rages, but it never understands. The most immediate layer of this fear is claustrophobia and powerlessness. Being in a confined space, especially one with no visible exit, triggers our fight or flight response. But in such settings, fight or flight is not an option. Add to this an entity that cannot be reasoned with, a creature that appears human, but lacks empathy or logic, and our sense of existential dread deepens. This isn't just fear of death, it's the horror of being seen by something that doesn't care if you live or die. It's not random or immediate danger. It's danger that's sitting next to you and doesn't flinch. The Cyclops is more than a monster. He's the embodiment of unreasoning, overwhelming force, and the cave is the space of trial and transformation. It's not just a physical trap, it's a crucible for psychological and moral testing. While the Odyssey is often cited as the first of this kind, older echoes can be found in the Epic of Gilgamesh, where Humbaba guards the cedar forest, another monstrous guardian of a forbidden space, or Vedic myths such as Indra slaying Vritra, who traps the world's waters, a kind of existential enclosure, and possibly many other ancient tales of the same fabric. In all of these, the trope persists. The hero faces an ancient force larger and less rational than they are within a space that denies escape. Chapter 2: The Forest Witch. Now let's move east, deep into the mountains of Japan. There, in a crooked hut covered in moss, lives Yamauba, an old woman with tangled hair and eyes too bright. Sometimes she welcomes travelers, she feeds them, smiles, waits, and sometimes, when the fire dies down, she eats them. Yamauba isn't evil in the way a villain is evil. She doesn't hate you. She simply exists in a moral vacuum, beyond our systems of fairness, justice, even logic. Like the mountain itself, she is uncaring, beautiful, ancient, terrible. She may raise a child or devour one. She may test you or bless you, or she could simply end you. But you won't talk your way out. Not with her. These old stories echo the same primal structure. You are trapped with a thing that wears a face but does not share your soul. Chapter 3: The Red Eye in the Void. One good example of referring to this old fear is Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. The cave is now a spaceship, and in that ship lives HAL 9000, a man-made intelligence who controls it. A soft voice, polite, controlled, deadly. "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." HAL mimics human speech, even tone, but lacks compassion, and later turns murderous in the name of mission success. The astronaut Dave is trapped in an environment HAL controls completely. HAL is not a villain. He doesn't hate Dave. He simply follows logic, and that logic no longer includes Dave's survival. Again, no escape, no negotiation, only strategy, deception, and disconnection. HAL is the Cyclops reborn. The red eye is the one eye, the spaceship is the cave. And Dave, like Odysseus, must outwit the mind that does not think like him. The absence of emotional engagement, the impossibility of appeal, makes HAL terrifying. It reflects a new fear, the inhumanity of our own creations. What makes HAL even more chilling than Polyphemus is his calmness. The one-eyed cave dweller roars in pain and rage, which are very human attributes, but HAL coldly appeals to Dave. "I'm afraid, Dave." Stanley Kubrick uses the same form of terror in his masterfully made horror film Shining, with the unsettling character of Jack Torrance in the Overlook Hotel. Chapter 4: The Trope That Will Not Die. At its core, this fear is not just about monsters or confinement, it's about loss of autonomy, encountering the inhuman within the familiar, being stripped of your tools, language, empathy, escape, facing a version of humanity with none of the humanity. These beings, Cyclops, Hal, the Minotaur, Hannibal Lecter, Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men, or the Xenomorph in Alien, mirror us in form, but not in mind. They represent a break in the social contract, the horrifying possibility that reason is not universal. It's about being caught in a world that doesn't follow your rules, where language fails, where empathy doesn't matter, where the thing in front of you looks like it might understand you, but does not. The fear of being trapped with the unreasoning beast is timeless because it reflects our deepest vulnerability, the fragility of our reason in a world full of forces that don't share it. So why do we keep returning to this? Because it speaks to something existentially wrong. It's not just death we fear. It's not being able to explain ourselves before we die. It's being face to face with the void, or the abyss as Nietzsche puts, and finding a mirror that slightly distorts our own image. Just a bit, but enough to haunt us in our dreams. And here's the twist no one likes to talk about. In order to survive this space, you have to leave yourself behind. Odysseus survives the Cyclops by becoming nobody. In the story, the giant asks Odysseus his name, and Odysseus tells him his name is nobody. He abandons his name, his identity. He erases the ego, and that's how he's able to escape the cave, as when Odysseus blinds Polyphemus, the Cyclops howls in agony, calls out to his brothers for help, but when they ask who's hurt him, he roars, "Nobody! Nobody has hurt me!" And so they leave him to suffer, assuming the gods are punishing him. And in 2001, A Space Odyssey, Dave doesn't just survive hell. He dies in a black hole. And then he's reborn into something post-human, post-self. In these stories, survival isn't about winning. It's about transformation, dissolution. The terrifying shedding of who you were, because sometimes the only way out of the cave is to become the thing that went in no longer. And maybe that's why the trope still haunts us, because deep down we know we've been living with a monster all our lives. Next time you're watching a film or reading a book, stop and look closer. Is there a kind of cave? Is there a thing inside? And does it care what you have to say? If this episode sent a little chill down your spine, good, because fear never goes out of style. And if you're curious about the Cave of the Cyclops, the cold voice of HAL 9000, or the wide smile of Yamoba, stay tuned. We'll be diving deeper into all of them in our upcoming episodes.